Hi, this video is a recording of me reading lesson 1. Just a reminder, this video is optional. You do not have to watch this entire video. The purpose of this video is just to give you some extra support with pronouncing words, especially our domain-specific vocabulary words, and fluency. For those of us that when we read it's really choppy and we have trouble understanding exactly what we're reading because we're trying to sound out words, this video can help you with that. So, without further ado, get out your textbook and turn to page 4. I'm going to project the words on the screen so we can follow along on the screen as well. Page 4 is lesson 1, the first humans. And remember, our essential question is, how do people adapt to their environment? Miss Martinez paused at the front door of the Houston Museum of Natural Science to remind her students to stay together. The class was so excited. A 3.2 million year old fossil skeleton of the, let's stop really quick. How do we pronounce this word? Let's sound it out. It's Australopithecus. It's a lot of syllables. Australopithecus. And even adults get tripped up on it sometimes. I'm going to start at the beginning of the sentence. A 3.2 million year old fossil skeleton of Australopithecus. Again, let's pronounce this one. Afarensis. It's not as hard. Afarensis, nicknamed Lucy, was on display. This was the first time Lucy's skeleton had ever left Ethiopia since anthropologists discovered it in 1974. The class had spent a week talking about how important finding so much of Lucy's skeleton was to scientists. Scientists could tell from her bones that she walked upright like modern humans. As the students listened to their guide and looked at the bones, they were shocked. At just 3 feet 7 inches, everyone in the class was taller than Lucy. She only weighed about 60 pounds. Starting on the top of page 5. It doesn't have page numbers on here, so I have to keep flipping back and forth. Our guiding question for this one section is, how did modern humans originate from apes? The great apes. We are modern humans, or Homo sapiens. Modern humans are members of the great ape family. The first apes evolved around 25 million years ago. A medium-sized primate group divided into 2 separate groups, apes and monkeys. Both of the groups found homes in the safety of trees. Apes had no tails and used their arms to swing from place to place in trees. Monkeys had tails and traveled mostly on 4 legs. Apes developed better eyesight than monkeys. Monkeys, however, developed a better sense of smell. Then, the ape family branched into 2 major lines. I always trip on this word. Hominins, and what today we usually call apes. Hominins are human-like mammals, more closely related to today's humans than today's chimpanzees and bonobos. The ape line led to today's chimpanzee, bonobos, and gorillas. Today's chimpanzees and bonobos are humans' closest living relative. By the way, for those of us that are following along to find our answers to inquiry, we just read the answer to number 1, letter A, that you're supposed to be doing. So if you want to pause the video now, answer that question, and come back, you are more than welcome. What is a primate? Today, there are several hundred living species of primates. They have some of the same behaviors and characteristics or features. Most live in tropical and subtropical forests. Compared to other animals, primates have large brains relative to the size of their body. Those with the largest brains can reason and problem solve. They can also communicate. Primates usually have powerful eyesight. Their eyes are in the front of their face and are protected by eye sockets. Most primates have 5 fingers on each hand and 5 toes on each foot. They have nails instead of claws. Their hands are long and move easily. Some primates can grasp and play with or use objects. Humans are the only primates that do not walk on all four limbs all the time. Many primates, though, can walk upright for short distances. Ancient fossils and footprints. Scientists have learned about the ancient past from fossils, or the preserved remains of traces of ancient life. Some fossils are actual parts of the body, such as bones or entire skeletons. Other fossils may be footprints left behind by ancient people or animals. Fossils can provide a record of a species that lived long ago. The record tells us who our earliest ancestors were. It helps us find out where and how our ancestors developed and changed over time. It can also give us clues about the changing environments and the ways of life of early people. Just to check to make sure we understand, how do characteristics of primates help them survive? What are some characteristics that allowed them to survive? Rewind if you need to. And how do fossils help scientists understand the past? For example, how would fossils like Lucy help us understand the past? Okay, let's keep going. Who are our ancestors? Our guiding question for this section is, what are the characteristics of the ancestors of modern humans? Our early ancestors, the hominins and chimpanzees, first appeared about 6 million years ago. Hominins and chimpanzees were partly bipedal. This means they could walk on two legs. By 2.5 million years ago, these early hominins had evolved to walking upright. About 4 million years ago, a branch of primates evolved into a species known, that's the word again, as Australopithecines. And there's a pronunciation guide. I need to really speed up, but I want to talk to you about the pronunciation guide. L-O-H is la, Pithecines. Australopithecines, or southern apes. They had ape-like brains and jaws, but their teeth and arms and leg joints were human-like. They were more closely related to humans than chimpanzees, and because of this, they were considered to be hominids. Early Homo species. Over the time, the hominins developed into our genus, which is Homo. A genus is a group of closely related species. Homo was the first human-like ancestors. The genus first appeared about 2.5 million years ago on the continent of Africa. The brain size of this new genus was about the same size as that of a chimpanzee. Their brain size, however, kept growing over the next million years. The earliest known Homo species was Homo habilis, or handyman. This species was named that because it was thought to be the first species to make stones into tools. There were a number of different early Homo species. Some began to use tools more. As they did, their population very slowly began to grow. Our early human ancestors evolved larger brains. They needed food to survive, and they began hunting and gathering in small bands. They used simple stone tools to skin animals and used weapons. They developed simple clothing and shelter and used fire. Some males and females bonded with each other. They worked in pairs to find food and they and their children needed to survive. In time, they developed spoken language. They also began to express themselves through art. Not everyone agrees about how these early hominins evolved. Most agree, however, that as the size of their brains kept growing, they had to eat more. About 2 million years ago, a few of our early human ancestors migrated out of their East African homeland to the rest of Africa. Afterward, they spread to Europe and as far as Indonesia and China. Homo erectus, Neanderthals, and we're going to talk about a pronunciation guide for that. Oh, no, there isn't. Denisovans. Different species of the Homo line continued to evolve. In time, they became more modern, Homo erectus, Neanderthals, and Denisovans. Homo erectus, or upright man, appeared about 1.5 million years ago. They probably were the first hominins to move into Asia and Europe. Homo erectus had large brains and bodies. Because of this, they needed more food and energy to survive. They had a human style of walking. Homo erectus might have lived in caves and used fire and made simple clothing. Neanderthals evolved in Europe and Asia about 200,000 years ago. They survived for hundreds of thousands of years in very harsh conditions. Fossils of the species have been found across Europe and the Middle East. More is known about Neanderthals than any other species because so many of their fossils have been discovered. The species adapted to the many different environments and changes in climates. Neanderthals were shorter and more muscular than modern humans. They used tools and hunted big game and skinned animals. They used caves and built complex structures as shelters. They wore animal skins to protect themselves from cold. Their tools were reasonably advanced. They were able to control fire for warmth, cooking, and protection. They might have even spoken some basic language. In time, Neanderthals coexisted with modern humans and the Denisovans. Very little is known about the Denisovans. They are believed to have lived in Siberia to Southeast Asia. They were not closely related to the Neanderthals or to humans. They coexisted with both at some point. Modern humans. Our guiding question for this section is, how did Homo sapiens become the species to populate the world? Our direct human ancestors appeared around 200,000 years ago. They are known as modern Homo sapiens, or wise man, and were similar in appearance to the modern humans. At the time, Homo sapiens and other Homo species, with which they coexisted had much in common. The brains of other Homo species were the same size as ours. Like us, they walked upright, used fire, and ate different kinds of food. They were also skilled gatherers, hunted large animals, and used tools, much like ours. Homo sapiens, however, were lighter and less muscled. They also adapted better than early species and kept developing larger brains. Characteristics of Homo species. Check out the chart. Time of transformation. About 70,000 years ago, the culture of Homo sapiens began a major transformation, or change. The ability of Homo sapiens to think and understand reached a new level, along with their ability to learn and remember. Homo sapiens' language skills improved. They developed the ability to imagine and plan. They acquired the ability to use social skills needed for a group, to think and act as one. Now, Homo sapiens could develop a more sophisticated tools and inventions and learn from one another. They also could pass what they had learned from one generation to the next. They cooperated more and acted together in large groups to search for food, to hunt, and to defend themselves. Homo sapiens were able to learn from experience. They could also adapt more easily to changing conditions. As a result, Homo sapiens were able to adapt and survive Earth's different extreme climates. Today, Homo sapiens are the only hominins that still exist and the only living species of humans. Populating the world. Modern humans began to populate Earth around 70,000 years ago. Some scientists think climate and population pressure might have played a role in population growth. Africa had been experiencing the coldest part of the 1,000-year ice age. Life was hard and population declined. In time, the climate warmed and the population grew. Some bold explorers dared to travel outside of Africa. They reached Asia about 70,000 years ago. About 50,000 years ago, modern humans moved through Southeast Asia into Australia. To get there, they had to navigate across large stretches of water. When the sea level was low, land bridges would appear. When the sea levels were high, there was less usable land. The availability of land created stress among people, forcing them to find other land regions. Scientists and historians are not sure whether boats or rafts were used to make the crossing to Australia. They are